Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Ghafarov. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev harshly criticized the health sector as he chaired his regular video conference on Thursday. He asked the officials in charge to answer two concerning questions: how many people have benefited from the creation of medical teams within the neighborhoods and targeted work with the population, which services have become free of charge. Details of the meeting in our next report.
Mirziyoyev said that the current state of the sector does not meet the requirements. Some 421 medical teams have been created in 236 neighborhoods of the Sirdarya region. A survey of the health of the population was conducted with a division into 4 risk groups, and an electronic medical card of the region was created. Mirziyoyev urged the creation of opportunity for patients to receive specialized medical care at their place of residence without having to visit the capital. Last year, out of 84,000 patients who needed treatment in specialized centers, only 51,000 received orders for free treatment. The president instructed the Ministry of Finance to increase allocations for warrants by 1.5 times and allocate an additional $7.6 million. Another concerning question is that transplant surgeries are forbidden if the donor is not a close relative of the patient. As a result, many are forced to conduct such surgeries abroad. In order to expand the coverage of medical services, all the legal bases and opportunities for private medical organizations have been created. However, the work carried out in the regions to create private medical institutions in various areas is insufficient, said Mirziyoyev. He gave instructions to increase the number of public-private partnership projects, provide 170 district and city medical associations with computer tomographs, as well as improve the skills of personnel in their use. And finally, the major issue, corruption in the sphere. The meeting said that nearly $3 million were embezzled in the healthcare system. Mirziyoyev instructed to establish effective control over the movement of allocated funds, transparency of purchases of medicines and medical equipment, and the targeted use of proceeds from paid services. The president talked about the Rural Doctor Program, intended to meet the demand for doctors in rural areas. According to him, even though that some $2 million were allocated under this program, it hasn't shown a single result. He ordered to double the quota for admission to clinical residency. Mirziyoyev also gave instructions to strengthen the activities of the territorial divisions in the fight against coronavirus, creating call centers and mobile teams that would operate around the clock.
The State Asset Management Agency of Uzbekistan has initiated a public sale process for several major state-owned real estate assets, the organization said in a statement. Interested parties are invited to submit bids for 5 commercial properties in the capital city of Tashkent, a business center, a hotel complex, a home goods and appliance superstore, and 2 downtown buildings primed for redevelopment, as well as 3 mountain resort complexes outside Tashkent.
We are committed to a fair, transparent privatization process that gets state-owned assets into private hands, where they will be operated most efficiently, garner investment and contribute to growth of the Uzbek economy, said Akmalxon Artikov, the director of Uzsama. The real estate properties we are offering for sale are attractive assets in strong locations already functioning as operating businesses. We welcome interest from both domestic and international investors. The 3 resorts on offer are located in the Chimgan Mountains outside of Tashkent. Notable for its natural beauty and quality infrastructure, the Sidjak Resort sits on 5.4 hectares in Bostanlik district and includes a restaurant, cinema, winter garden, bar, sauna, gyms, indoor and outdoor pools, and cottages. Detailed information about the 8 lots and the bidding process are available at the website of the Uzsama.
Wyndham Hotels and Resorts has announced its intention to open Ramada Angkor by Wyndham Tashkent Hotel in Uzbekistan in 2021. According to a press release published by the company, no other details have been provided. Last year, the Department for Tourism Development of Tashkent said a new hotel would be built in the capital on the basis of the Ramada Angkor by Wyndham brand. A $6 million hotel complex would consist of 105 rooms, with Turkey's FDI amounting to $2 million. Ramada Angkor by Wyndham Tashkent could become the 4th hotel of the chain in Uzbekistan after Wyndham Tashkent, Ramada by Wyndham, and Wyndham Garden Tashkent Airport. The COVAX facility to distribute COVID-19 vaccines to poorer countries faces a serious challenge to meet demand. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Thursday. Addressing the WHO's daily COVID briefing, Ghebreyesus also said that he expected follow-up assessments on the report, which is to be published on the origins of the virus, which first emerged in Wuhan in China in 2019.
The clock is still ticking on vaccine equity. We have 9 days left until we reach the 100th day of the year, and the target of starting vaccine rollout to health workers and those at risk in all countries remains in our grasp. COVAX has already delivered 35 billion doses to more than 78 countries. But there is still a serious challenge on vaccine equity and availability. Last week, I made an urgent request to countries with doses of vaccines that have to WHO emergency use listing to share 10 million doses immediately with COVAX. The extra 10 million doses would be an urgent stopgap measure so that 20 countries which are ready but haven't got the supply needed to start vaccinating their health workers and older people could begin before the 100th day, 10 April. I also requested manufacturers to help ensure that the countries that step up can rapidly donate those doses. This challenge has been heard, but we're yet to receive commitments for these doses. I'm still hopeful that some forward-looking and enlightened leaders will step up.
Thank you.
A Mercedes-Benz truck carrying historical and cultural values has been halted at the border customs post of Karakol, Pakistan, Dowdata. According to the Uzbek legislation, the export of cultural values created 50 or more years ago is considered illegal. Thus, the customs authorities carried out thorough inspections. The examination revealed that the numismatic collection, which consisted of 131 units of coins, was minted in about 30 countries of the world at different times of last century. 33 of them were of historical value. In addition to numismatic items, the citizen tried to illegally take out handmade woolen carpets and several figurines that were of cultural value. Uzbekistan is planning to receive 5.5 million COVID-19 vaccines by July of this year. In particular, 2 million doses are set to be received from AstraZeneca, with the rest to be produced in cooperation with China. The first batch of 1 million doses were delivered on March 27. Meanwhile, Uzbekistan and China agreed to keep the price of jointly produced vaccine confidential. Uzbekistan has recently announced the development of its own vaccine against COVID-19. According to the country's health ministry, the first protein molecules as of vaccines against COVID-19 was created on Wednesday. Clinical trials on animals are set to launch in the coming days.
Mass vaccination has kicked off in Uzbekistan on April the 1st. On a non-mandatory basis, elderly people, medical workers and people with chronic diseases aged over 65 were eligible to get the vaccine. In order to monitor this process, Uziport team visited the central polyclinic located in the city of Tashkent. We have received two types of vaccines, AstraZeneca and the Uzbek Chinese vaccine. I received the latter and I feel well now. I injected the vaccine to more than 10 patients. Me and the staff of the polyclinic also received the vaccine, and we are all feeling very well. The vaccines are being kept in small fridge and they can be used during 6 hours after being taken out.
I received the vaccine AstraZeneca and I feel well.
More than 5,000 people were vaccinated on April the 1st, and the process is still ongoing.
Turkish Aksa Energy is intending to build two 470 megawatt and $300 million worth power plants in Tashkent region of Uzbekistan, the Energy Ministry of Uzbekistan said in a statement. The stations are expected to generate 3.9 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year.
The power plants are said to be built on 7 hectares of land in the Kibray region, on the west of the operating Tashkent TPP. New plants, according to the Energy Ministry, would save up to 550 million cubic meters of natural gas per year. The construction has already begun. Some 900 new jobs are to be created upon its completion in the fourth quarter of this year. Uzbekistan aims to increase the share of renewables to 25% of the energy mix by 2030. In the coming 10 years, the government plans to commission 5,000 megawatt of new solar capacity and 3,000 megawatt in wind power plants.
Uzbekistan intends to give the seismic sector a boost to help the Academy of Sciences develop the region's earthquake hazard map that would display data on seismic activity in each region of the Republic. Grant aid would be provided to the most innovative projects.
Mahira Jumanova, the head of the press service of Uzbekistan's Academy of Sciences, said that the president instructed to create a seismology support fund under the Cabinet of Ministers. Some $14.3 thousand would be allocated for scientific research in the area. Uzbekistan is located in the middle of Central Asia within a zone of high seismic activity. The latest major earthquake in Uzbekistan happened on July 1, 2011, affecting the Republic's Fergana region with magnitude exceeding 6.5 and killing 13 people. In recent years, the Republic has undertaken particular measures and reforms to ensure seismic safety of the population and region. In addition, a draft law has been developed in this area, which is currently under discussion in the relevant committee of the Senate. Scholars of the Academy of Sciences, jointly with the relevant ministries and departments, have prepared a concept for the development of the field of seismic stability and safety of buildings and structures until 2030. It is currently under review by the relevant organizations. In particular, a fund has been created to support seismic resistance and seismic safety of buildings and structures. In early March of this year, this fund announced a grant competition for scientific research in the amount of up to 150 million sums. The winning projects will be funded from May 2021 to May 2022. Mahira Jumanova stated that the Institute of Seismology of the Academy of Sciences have developed an express method for accessing the seismic state of water and hydropower facilities. In addition, scholars have completed work on the creation of an atlas of Uzbekistan, consisting of 77 maps, which would be published in May 2021.
A train in Taiwan has derailed inside a tunnel, killing dozens of people. Around 70 passengers are still trapped, and 40 others have been taken to hospital in what is Taiwan's worst rail disaster in at least 4 decades. The train had been travelling from Taipei to Taitung when it apparently hit a truck and came off the rails north of Hualien. Images of the crash scene show carriages inside the tunnel ripped apart from the impact. Taiwan's fire department said there had been some 350 people on board the train. Many of them were reported to have been standing because it was so full. More than 80 people have been evacuated from the first 4 carriages, but the others are harder to reach. The accident happened at the start of the long weekend for the traditional Tomb Sweeping Day. The last major train derailment in Taiwan was in 2018, which left 18 people dead.
A boat carrying more than 1,000 survivors of a deadly attack by Islamic State-linked insurgents in northern Mozambique arrived in the port of Pemba on Thursday. Many of them distraught, as were the crowds of relatives waiting for their loved ones. Aid workers waited to give survivors food, and police and soldiers kept order. The government says dozens were killed in the highly organised attack on the gas town of Palma, which began last Wednesday. But the exact number of casualties isn't known. Mariamo Tagir was among many who fled and walked for days through the forest.
I'm so tired. It was 7 days in the bush. I'm so tired. We came across evildoers several times. The situation is really bad. There are many dead. Many dead.
Tagir left her son behind in Palma.
It's very painful. I've been crying every day. I don't know where my son is. It's very painful.
Survivors have spoken of bodies in the streets, some decapitated. Reuters has been unable to independently verify accounts from Palma, and most communication was cut off after the attack began. But Tagir describes similar horrors.
They said they didn't want us. They wanted the military. The military who were not in their uniforms were saved. Some of them were cutting the throats of people from there.
Aid groups believe the attack displaced tens of thousands of people, many of whom fled into dense forest or attempted to escape by sea. Hundreds, including many foreign workers, have been evacuated by air. The fighting continued as recently as Tuesday, security sources said. Islamist insurgents have been increasingly active in the surrounding province of Cabo Delgado since 2017, although it is unclear what specifically they are fighting for. The district around Palma is home to natural gas projects worth $60 billion. A diplomatic source said there were roughly 1,200 displaced people on board the boat, including 300 children and 400 women. An official at the International Committee of the Red Cross said the government was screening those arriving at Pemba to prevent infiltration by armed groups.
The US may not need AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine, even if it wins US regulatory approval. That's according to the country's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, who told Reuters the US had enough contracts with other vaccine makers for its entire population. AstraZeneca has been dogged by controversy, despite being approved by dozens of countries. Millions of doses of the vaccine have been safely administered around the world. But in March, several European countries suspended its use over concerns about rare blood clots. That same month, a US health agency said data from the company gave an incomplete picture of its efficacy. Days later, AstraZeneca published results showing diminished, though still strong, efficacy. Both the World Health Organization and the European Medicines Agency have said the benefits of the vaccine outweigh its risks. Many European countries have since resumed administering the shot, but Germany and France have restricted its use to the older population.
Floyd has this great, deep Southern voice, raspy. He's like, "Sis, you okay, sis?" And I wasn't okay.
George Floyd's girlfriend smiled through tears as she told a jury on Thursday how she and the man she referred to simply as Floyd met at a Salvation Army shelter where he worked as a security guard less than 3 years before his deadly arrest. Courtney Ross said she was waiting in the lobby to see the father of her son, tired from having closed up the coffee shop where she worked, when she was approached by Floyd.
He said, "Well, can I pray with you?" And this kind person just to come up to me and say, "Can I pray with you?" When I felt alone in this lobby, it was so sweet.
She said they had their first kiss that night and, but for the occasional break, were together until his death. Ross was the first person who actually knew Floyd to testify at the trial of ex-Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin, who was accused of killing Floyd last May.
I cannot breathe.
She was also open about how she and Floyd both struggled with opioid addiction.
Our story, it's a classic story of how many people get addicted to opioids. We both suffered from chronic pain. Mine was in my neck and his was in his back. We both had prescriptions.
When you weren't using, prescription opioids, where did you get them?
Off the street, on the black market.
In a central dispute of the trial, Chauvin's lawyers have argued that Floyd's death, ruled a homicide at the hands of police, was really an overdose caused by the fentanyl found in his blood. EMS worker Seth Bravender said when he and his partner arrived outside Cup Foods, where Floyd was suspected of passing a fake $20 bill earlier, police were on top of Floyd, who appeared to be not breathing and had no pulse. His first thought was that some kind of struggle was going on, but it quickly became clear that Floyd was limp.
Did you see a struggle of any kind going on, any movement, anything like that?
No.
It's been an emotional first week of testimony, as at least 3 eyewitnesses to the incident have broken down in tears, including passerby Charles McMillan, one of the first to notice Floyd's arrest.
I feel helpless.
Chauvin has pleaded not guilty to murder and manslaughter charges.
A holiday-shortened trading week came to a close Thursday on an upswing, with the S&P 500 closing above 4,000 for the first time in history. The Dow rose 171 points. The S&P 500 jumped 46 points to a record closing high. The Nasdaq rallied 233. The stock market will be closed for Good Friday. The bond market will wind down at noon. Investors were optimistic after data showed a jump in manufacturing activity to a 37-year high in March and a drop in corporate layoff announcements to a more than 2.5-year low. An unexpected spike in weekly unemployment claims did little to undermine confidence in an economy that's rebounding on many fronts. Optimism was the buzzword of the day, says Victoria Fernandez. She's the chief market strategist at Crossmark Global Investments.
We've got the stimulus checks that are hitting people's bank accounts, so we've got that increased spending. We saw yields come back a little bit, which is giving a boost to tech, and you have increased stimulus coming in the form of an infrastructure plan. So I think people are looking longer term with reopening, vaccines hitting almost 3 million a day, and using that as their optimism for the markets to continue to trend higher.
Chip stock saw a bounce after Micron Technology lifted quarterly sales expectations. It is seeing higher demand for memory chips used in 5G smartphones and to power artificial intelligence software. Taiwan Semiconductor added to the upbeat tone on a plan to invest $100 billion over the next 3 years in order to meet rising demand for semiconductors. Johnson & Johnson was left out of Thursday's jovial mood, a stumble for the drug maker in its COVID-19 vaccine production. It discovered a problem with a batch of the vaccine still in the factory. Although it would not detail how many doses the batch would have produced, the New York Times reported, without citing a source, that about 15 million doses were ruined. Shares of J&J were down slightly. Manufacturing partner Emergent Biosolutions, the cause of the bad batch, saw its stock tumble more than 13%. It's the clearest sign yet that a much-anticipated economic boom is in the making. U.S. manufacturing activity soared to its highest level in more than 37 years in March, according to data released Thursday by the Institute for Supply Management. The ISM index jumped to 64.7 last month. That's a high not seen since December 1983. March's upswing was led by a surge in new orders, hinting at the pent-up demand for manufactured goods. Busy factories usually mean more workers are needed. The report's employment component shot up to its highest reading in 3 years. The labor market as a whole appears to be on the mend. A separate report released Thursday showed corporate job cut announcements fell in March to their lowest in more than 2.5 years, according to a monthly survey conducted by outplacement firm Challenger Gray and Christmas. And in an official snapshot from the Labor Department, also out Thursday, new applications for jobless benefits unexpectedly rose last week, though still hovering around their lowest point since the health crisis pushed millions of Americans out of work last year. Despite the progress being made on the hiring front, more than 18 million people received unemployment assistance through the middle of March. Economists, however, expect to see that number to continue to get smaller as the economic outlook improves. The economy is poised to take off this year, powered by President Biden's massive $1.9 trillion economic relief package and the further reopening of local economies as more Americans get vaccinated. Activity could be further boosted if Biden is able to get through his $2 trillion infrastructure plan unveiled this week. The most important economic data point of the month comes Friday, when the government releases official hiring and unemployment data for March.
Xinjiang cotton produces one of the most famous fabrics in the world. At China Fashion Week, designer Zhu Li brought ruffles and minimalist designs to the runway, and a patriotic prop with political overtones, a bouquet of cotton.
I think Xinjiang cotton is my sweetheart, my lover. This time I want to really thank it. It has brought me so much joy.
The significance of Xinjiang cotton taps into a controversy that has embroiled some of the West's biggest fashion brands, such as Burberry, Adidas, Nike, and, perhaps most notably, H&M. They've been hit by a boycott in China after making comments on alleged human rights abuses in Xinjiang, which have resurfaced on Chinese social media. The far western region produces around 20% of the world's cotton. Some Western companies have expressed concern over reports of coercive labour programmes in the province to meet seasonal cotton picking needs. China strongly denies the claims. It says all labour in Xinjiang is consensual and contract-based. H&M says it no longer sources products from Xinjiang, and it was, quote, deeply concerned by reports from civil society organisations and media that include accusations of forced labour. The statement was made in 2020. It was not immediately clear why it's back in the public eye. Patriotic campaigns targeting foreign brands are common in China, where news and social media are tightly controlled by the Communist Party-controlled government. At least one Chinese online retailer appeared to drop H&M's products, and consumers have vented their anger at the Swedish fashion giant.
I think these kinds of comments are really stupid because I believe our Chinese Communist Party, they wouldn't do such a thing because all of our ethnic groups here are very much united and we don't need this kind of news or whatever.
The backlash has put the brands in an awkward position. China is H&M's fourth biggest market, with sales of around $1.13 billion in the 12 months through November 2020. It said on its website that its commitment to China remains strong, and it was dedicated to regaining trust and confidence.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.